We all know the stories of Mount Moriah, where Abraham faced his ultimate test, and Mount Sinai, where Moses received the Torah. They feel like two completely separate, monumental events. But what if I told you the ancient sages said they were actually the same mountain? Yeah, that's the wild mystery we're diving into today.
Get this. This is a direct quote from an ancient rabbinic text, the Midrash Sekhel. It claims that Mount Moriah was literally uprooted and transported to the desert to become Mount Sinai. It's an absolutely mind-bending image, right? A flying mountain?
So, what's going on here? Are we supposed to believe in flying mountains? Of course not. The sages weren't writing a geology textbook. This shocking image is their way of putting up a giant, flashing neon sign. It's screaming at us, hey, pay attention. There's a profound connection between these two stories that you have to understand.
Okay, so to solve this riddle, we've got to learn to read the way the sages did. They had this incredible analytical toolkit to unlock the deeper layers of the text. And the first tool we need to pull out is a really powerful one they used called Midrashic projection.
Think of it like this. Midrashic projection isn't about physics, it's about meaning. When the sages say Moriah became Sinai, they are essentially creating a conceptual bridge. They're layering one story right on top of the other, forcing us to read them together. It means you can't fully understand what happened at Sinai without understanding what happened on Moriah, and vice versa. And this is brilliant. It works both ways. It's a two-way projection. Not only do they project Moriah forward onto Sinai, but other sages project the classic Sinai imagery, that famous cloud and fire, backward onto Abraham's story on Moriah. They are weaving these two moments together so tightly you can't pull them apart.
But here's the thing. This isn't just some clever idea they came up with. This projection is anchored in the bedrock of the text itself. The sages were master detectives of the text, and they found a stunning pattern of linguistic parallels, verbal fingerprints, if you will, that linked these two events. They were doing some seriously careful intertextual analysis.
Now just look at this. The sheer number of these parallels is staggering. This isn't a coincidence. You have Abraham telling his men, stay here, and Moses telling the elders, stay for us here. It's almost the exact same phrase. Both Abraham and Moses rose early in the morning. Both stories talk about seeing the holy place from afar. And how about this one? Abraham sent forth his hand to take his son's life, while at Sinai, God did not send forth his hand against the leaders of Israel. The echoes are they're undeniable. The text itself is telling us that these two stories are reflections of each other.
Okay, so the language connects them. But it gets even deeper. There's another huge clue, and this time it's not in the words themselves, but in the very structure of the story. We have to look at a really puzzling interruption right at the climax of the Akada.
Seriously, think about this. It's always seemed a bit odd to me. Abraham has passed the most gut-wrenching test imaginable. The angel stops him. The test is over. So, why doesn't God immediately deliver that epic promise, that incredible blessing? Why the pause? Why the delay? Let's break down the sequence. First, angel number 1 stops him. Then there's this little interlude. Abraham finds the ram, he offers it up, he even names the place. It's only after all of that a second angel shows up to deliver the blessing. This is a deliberate literary interruption. The Torah is creating a textual space to give us a conceptual space. It wants to separate the act, the willingness to sacrifice, from the reason for the reward.
And that little interruption, that pause, it changes everything. It completely reframes what this whole story is about. By pushing the blessing away from the near sacrifice, the text shines a spotlight on a different and, frankly, more profound virtue.
Here's the core of it. Abraham isn't being rewarded for his willingness to kill his son. He's being rewarded for his perfect, absolute shemiah, his capacity to truly, deeply listen to God's voice and obey, no matter what. He listened when the command was horrifying, and he listened just as perfectly when that command was reversed in a split second. That total devotion to the divine word, that's the real test he passed. And this is where it all comes together. That single act of perfect listening on Mount Moriah isn't just about Abraham's personal faith. It is the literal construction of the foundation for the entire national covenant that is going to be forged on Mount Sinai. So check this out. Later in Genesis, God explains this reward to Abraham's son, Isaac. And what's the reason? Because Abraham listened to my voice, a direct echo of the Akedah. But then the verse says he also kept God's commandments, decrees, and laws. Now wait a minute, how is that possible? The Torah with all its laws hadn't even been given yet.
And that's the whole point. The Akedah was the ultimate act of Shemiah, of obedient listening. By establishing this foundational religious posture, this absolute readiness to obey whatever God commands, it was as if Abraham had already accepted and fulfilled the entire Torah. He built the foundation. The laws given at Sinai are simply the house being built upon that foundation of listening that he laid on Moriah.
So in the end, that uprooted mountain isn't a story about geology. It's a theological blueprint. It teaches us that Sinai, the law, the covenant, the details, is only possible because of Moriah, the absolute commitment to listen. And that kind of leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? If one person's act of listening could set the stage for a nation's entire destiny, what's the power of what you and I choose to listen to today?